This programme can reveal that the amount of unpaid child maintenance parents are currently chasing stands at £3.8 billion. The money is owed by non-resident parents or absent parents and has built up over the last 23 years. It affects over 1 million people across the country. Our reporter Nicola Rees has been speaking to some of those parents. We played you her full report an hour ago. Here's a short extract.
Laura Riley lives in Sheffield. Her son Louis is 10 years old. His dad has been assessed by the Child Support Agency and should be paying maintenance.
He's bought him a couple of books and £50 at the beginning in 2009, but we're now in 2017. And the total amount that he owes Louis is £9,000.
What was it like for you, particularly early on, to survive on one income?
I had to just, you know, instead of going to do fun things, I would just take him to the park, get a picnic. We'd have the same picnic every single day, take a book. I mean, you know, I did my best, but I would have liked to have done more.
Come on, Jimmy.
When couples split up, they're both still expected to contribute to the cost of bringing up their children. But almost 1.2 million parents in the UK have failed to pay a total of £3.8 billion in child maintenance. The Child Support Agency was set up to help families in 1993, but it's been dogged with problems. Computer systems didn't work properly, and parents who didn't pay up weren't tracked down.
They shouldn't just be able to walk away and say it's history when it's due to their errors and their poor practice that money hasn't been collected. That's wrong, and the government should pay for that.
So over 23 years, a multi-billion-pound arrears debt's accumulated. It's money that should have been available for children.
I'll just pop you on hold a moment and I'll keep you too long, thank you.
For Laura, the fight is far from over.
Right, I've got £9,109.
Okay, yep, that's the figure I've got. So what's happening with that money?
Laura's former partner is Gary Lawford, a children's entertainer in Brighton.
Louis?
Yeah, thank you.
Look, it's Daddy.
We asked him why he hasn't paid maintenance for Louis, but he declined to comment.
We get a smile, hello.
In a statement, the government said we actively pursue non-resident parents to recover unpaid maintenance.
Could I start by taking your full name and your...
In 2012, the Child Maintenance Service replaced the CSA. With new IT systems, it was supposed to solve the arrears problem, but it's already clocked up £93 million in maintenance debt.
At the moment, there's still, I think, questions to be asked about how much effort it's put into chasing those who choose not to pay. And we don't think, as yet, it's got that right.
I don't understand how you know, a father can get away with not paying. How can he sleep at night? How can he sleep at night when that's his child that he owes money to? Yeah, I don't know how he sleeps, I really don't.
If your ex isn't paying child maintenance, do get in touch. Your experiences, you know, inform our conversation. As you'd expect, we asked the Department for Work and Pensions for a comment. They said they wouldn't be interviewed, but they gave us a statement which is about ensuring that all children get the maintenance that they deserve. Let's talk to Heather, a mum who spent 6 years chasing almost £3,000 in child maintenance arrears for her daughter. We're not using her surname on her request. Conservative MP Heidi Allen is here, part of a group of MPs who've been investigating child maintenance arrears. Their report is due out next week-ish. Janet Alberson from the single-parent charity Gingerbread, and Michael Lefkovich, who is from the charity Families Need Fathers. Welcome, all of you. Heather, hello. It's taken 6 years, and even though your ex is now paying maintenance each month, you're still fighting for the arrears. What's it been like trying to get that money?
It's been horrendous. I've had to chase. I've had to do all the chasing. I've had to do all the investigating. I've had to get my MP involved to assist, because the Child Support Agency wouldn't do anything about it. They wouldn't, because he's self-employed. They would only go on what he was telling them that he was earning, and I was obviously convinced that he was earning more money, and I wanted them to carry out a financial investigation, but they wouldn't do it. So after a year of chasing them, I had to get my MP involved, who wrote a letter to them, and then they did carry out a financial investigation and found that he had more money in his bank account than he was declaring. He was allowed to appeal, and we went to a tribunal, and the tribunal dismissed his appeal and awarded me, well, my daughter, the sum that the CSA had said that he owed.
Right.
And on top of that, I'd already swapped over to the child maintenance service, and obviously I had to get them to recalculate the payment that you should have been making from them once we got the figures correct for his earnings. And at first they said they wouldn't backdate those arrears to the start of my claim. So again, I got my MP involved, who wrote to them again, and they then agreed to backdate them, which is why we've got the arrears that we've got now. But they will not do anything to force him to pay the arrears. They say that their objective is to get a regular maintenance payment, but the arrears come second, and they do have a priority in how they collect the money. And their fees, their 4% charge that I pay, is more important to them and higher in their priorities than my arrears from 2011.
OK, Janet, do you think the child maintenance service is any better than what went before the child support agency?
We're very worried that it's taking the same approach, which is to say, as long as you pay something, that's good enough. They seem very slow, very lethargic to really take action to collect back money that's owed for children. And that creates a real hole in single parents' budgets. There's bills they can't pay, their savings get run down. That debt really matters. It's not just paying money this week and promising to do it in future. It's all the money you owe from the past, and we think they should be doing a lot more to collect that. OK, well, we'll talk to Heidi Allen about how they can do that in a moment. Michael, on behalf of fathers, what are the dads who are paying child maintenance saying to you about how they're treated?
They have a similar experience. They contact the CMS or CSA and find that they are faced with dozens of phone calls and people who come back and say, well, no, computer says no, we can't listen to your point. And their point is often that they simply cannot afford to make the payment because the assessment formula that CMS use doesn't take into account their essential cost of living. The basic threshold at which they start to make payments hasn't been reviewed for 18 years. 1998 it was last updated, which means that they're pushed into a place where, with cost of living having increased very dramatically over that time, however much they would like to contribute more, a large number cannot. And we know that there are 56% of all the arrears cases are actually for people owing less than £1,000. These are people who simply don't have the money to pay it, even though they would very much wish to support their parents. And of course, one feels for those of their children.
Do you accept that some exes do lie about their income so they don't have to pay as much as they ought?
I think that happens. I think in any system you get some people who will try to minimise what they're owed, whether it's tax benefit system or whether it is child maintenance. And of course we believe that both parents really should be supporting their parents both financially and non-financially, and the people, we get 25,000 calls to our helpline at Families Need Fathers every year, and these are people who desperately want to maintain their involvement with their children, want to be able to support them. But when we carried out a large-scale survey of our service users, what really shocked and surprised us, we weren't expecting this actually as a response, was just how many people were saying, I can't afford it, I'm feeling suicidal, I'm having to live with my parents without whose help I wouldn't be able to pay my maintenance.
Heidi Allen, you and your fellow MPs on the Work and Pensions Select Committee have been looking at this. What can you do to make the CMS, the Child Maintenance Service, more efficient, more effective when it comes to collecting maintenance now and arrears?
Well, I think we first of all have to understand what we want the system for. You know, because we found time and time again in our evidence where there is an amicable split, parents get on with it and they do absolutely the best thing for the children. So if the government's going to have a system, because at the end of the day when these arrears aren't collected and, you know, the real issue is self-employment, I'm self-employed, declared earnings, this is fraud to HMRC. So from that point of view, you know, the government does have a role, I believe, also to keep these mums in employment, not claiming benefits. They should be out there, so it's a double cost to the taxpayer. We need a system that has effective enforcement powers, that either lets the court do the job, if the court is the more effective way of identifying what somebody should owe. But at the moment, the CMS seems to be causing more of a blockage in some instances. Example of the court awarding or saying that a parent should pay £3,500 a month in arrears, very wealthy, and by the time it got into the hands of the CMS, it was down to £11 a week.
What? Because
every time a judgment is made, the case will go back to the CMS, and of course we are talking about, not everybody of course behaves like this, but there are, the rotten apples that are out there. The minute I'm self-employed again, you need to reassess my income.
Right, so people are deliberately moving between employment and saying they're moving between employment and self-employment because they know they'll get reassessed.
Absolutely.
So they're sort of playing the system.
It's one of the most fundamental flaws in the system.
So what recommendation could you come up with in your report, which is due next week-ish, to stop that?
Well, one very basic thing that we'd like to see, in the old CSA system, there was a thing called lifestyle incompatible with income. So if you could demonstrate, well, look at the houses, look at the cars, the holidays, this parent isn't earning, minimum wage. That used to be taken into account. That's been removed in the new CMS system, and that's a fundamental tool that we need. I'd also like to see greater enforcement powers, more staffing provided for chasing up on enforcements, and arrears. As Janet says, those arrears are so important. There seems to be, I understand prioritisation with resource in the DWP, but these arrears, £500, £1,000, might seem a small amount of money in the grand scheme of things, but when we're talking families on very, very low incomes, this is a huge amount of money.
It is. Janet, some of those things that Heidi Allen has suggested that will be coming in this report, will they work? Is that what's needed?
Well, I think she's right that they've gone for a model which is incredibly simple, it's cheap to operate, but it's not giving a fair deal. And when it comes to arrears, that can take effort and resources. Particularly when someone's self-employed, it's very easy to hide. And it's almost like if it becomes too difficult, they won't bother. And that's just not acceptable because children of traders and business people, they need child maintenance just like everyone else.
Go on, Heather, you coming in there?
I'd just say that is right, that when they're self-employed, they don't want to know. It's too much like hard work for them to do any investigations, and they just let it go, and they just listen to what they're saying, what their earnings are. I've been told that we can only work things out on what he's telling us that he's earning, and but I know he's earning more money than that. I know he is.
Michael, quick word.
And on a specific point, of course, HMRC under the new system of CMS will be able to look at what their tax return is. So if they're fiddling the tax figures, and
it's only the tax return at the end of the year, not any additional income. That's not on there.
They just accept what they put on the tax returns.
Let Michael finish, Heather, and I'll come back to you. Yeah,
Can I just make one more point? The other thing, which is there's a second fundamental flaw of the assessment system at the moment, which is how it works in shared parenting arrangements. Currently, we have a system which effectively divides parents into the old-fashioned way of looking at provider, father, and carer, mother. And it doesn't take into account that a lot of people would and do have shared parenting arrangements. And it actually discourages them. So, for example, if the parents more or less share equal parenting after they've separated between them, then actually all of the benefits and allowances for the child go to the one parent who's got slightly more time than the other, which can be £5,000, £10,000, £15,000 a year. They will, on top of that, be expected to make child maintenance payments. So although they're both caring for their child and giving all their love and attention and care, as well as practical physical care for their children, the formula actually doesn't reflect it. It undermines the principles of the 2014 Children Family Act, which encourages shared parenting. It actually obstructs it.
Let me read these messages from people watching around the country. Michelle has emailed to say, my children's father has religiously paid maintenance for our 3 children for the past 13 years. Every month he's contributed 50 quid to provide for all 3. He's a self-employed painter and decorator, and according to his accountant, he earns 200 quid a month. This isn't true. Historically, I've spent hours asking government authorities for help. They, the CSA and the tax office, advised me to investigate him and provide evidence, as they were not resourced to do so. My children's father and the government have let us down. Grace says, I never received a penny towards the cost of bringing up my 2 children. Their father could afford new cars and frequent holidays, while we were watching every penny and buying from discount shops and second-hand shops. He never looked after them or did any work connected with their upbringing, which is where your, what was it, lifestyle incompatible with income. So if you're driving a Ferrari and saying you're only on 200 quid a month, something doesn't add up.
Let's have HMRC and the CMS together in the same office, because it's in HMRC's interest as well, isn't it, to find this money, because they're clearly not putting it on their tax return.
At the moment, the CMS say go off to HMRC, ring their tax abuse helpline. But we've had people ringing us say they've rung the abuse helpline, and the guy on the end of the phone has said, what do you expect us to do about it? We're getting inundated with calls from ex-partners demanding that we investigate income. We haven't got the resources. And the trouble is, unless, you know, HMRC work by the biggest bang for the buck, and these are small traders, small businessmen, they're just not a priority, and that means children are losing out.
I'm going to leave it there, Michael. Sorry, I'm so sorry. But thank you so much, all of you. Thanks for coming on the programme. Cheers, Heather, as well. Thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it.